Hello, 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 people. Thank you guys for joining. It's the AI Gateway to College episode 1. So if you're actually in college, thinking about going to college, or even just want to talk to somebody who is in college or in high school, this would be a really great episode to learn some skills. And it would actually help a lot of people as well who don't know why they should actually go to college. So many reasons to watch this episode. Here we go.
Welcome to Season 10 of Airhead Institute, your 45-minute AI power-up at noon Eastern. This month, we are broadcasting live across all the socials and Zoom. If you're new here, join our free AI community to grow alongside other curious minds and give your kids a head start by enrolling them in the Airhead After School program. Here's March's weekly lineup. Mondays, we take the training wheels off securely in the Open Claw Bootcamp. Tuesdays, we explore bleeding-edge tools from Google Labs in Gemini Hidden AI apps. Wednesdays, we equip the next generation in AI Gateway to College. Thursdays, we uncover productivity and marketing tools in Hidden AI Gems, Starters. Fridays, we explore human purpose in an automated society in Humanity 2.0, No Jobs Edition. We're making AI practical, powerful, and accessible for everyone. No tech background? No problem. Whether you're a student, professional, or lifelong learner, just show up. Guided by your hosts, AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're keeping it bold, brainy, and built for real-world impact. AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind.
Welcome everyone to season 10. This is episode 1 of our brand new series, AI Gateway to College. For all those high schoolers, college freshmen, teachers, and parents out there, this series is built specially for you. All right, so why go to college? Well, I'm here to tell you that the human knowledge isn't dead, and it's the ultimate superpower. We're going to prove that your brain is the best algorithm on earth. Before we jump in, let me introduce my co-pilot, AI Johnny. I know AI Johnny is actually almost here, so we'll give him another minute or so. So I found AI Johnny this morning, tried to do an autonomous agent reading the 17th century philosophy book just to win an argument on Reddit. All right, AI Johnny, how much sleep did you get? But you know what? Until AI Johnny actually joins,
I can hear you, brother. I'm on my phone and on my laptop. My laptop's being a little bit slow, and I appreciate you taking over the intro.
All right. Can you read the response?
I cannot, because I can't read off my laptop, but until I get in on my laptop.
That's good, Johnny. So don't worry. While you're actually getting that, let me actually keep on reading the intro. So what happens is the 18th century economics textbook, and that AI still lost the argument. So welcome everyone. This is an immersive class. Think of it of being dropped into the middle of Tokyo. Konnichiwa. You might not speak the language today, but hang around this class, and soon you'll be speaking in tokens and parameters fluently. If you're on Zoom, unmute and ask your questions. If you're on socials, there's a 30-second delay, and type your questions in now. We're not actually ignoring you. So today's workshop is all about proving that deep human knowledge makes you vastly superior to prompt engineering, to being a prompt engineer. Dutch, thank you for joining. Adrian, thanks for joining. And everyone else who I have missed in the Zoom chat, thank you for joining. All right, guys. So we are kicking off with a prompt showdown, and we're going to run 2 prompts, right, through Gemini. And the reason why we're actually going to run 2 prompts is want to show you that what 90% of students, and typically people who are not AI engineers. Hello, Blackson, for actually talking on live stream. We see you. So we actually want to show the 2 prompts that people use. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to, let me see something here. We're going to go over to my screen share. All right, so I'm going to go over to my screen share over here. And then if I go over to my screen share, I'm going to show you guys, first of all, the first prompt. Now, the purpose of this whole entire first part of this series is to do the following, is to show you guys why human knowledge is not dead. And a lot of people may be asking the question, why even go to college? Why even learn about a domain expertise? Why even study? And this is going to prove the exact point. So everything that you guys have heard the entire time is about being a prompt engineer. So the prompt engineer is the main way to be able to interact with the AI. And if you're not being a really great prompt engineer, you're going to have a rough time. All right. So here's the first thing. So we actually have Gemini, which is our large language of the month here at Airhead. And I posted the link to Gemini to Gemini in the chat. Now, because I actually posted it in the chat, I'm going to actually now take over this first thing here, and I'm going to drop this here. All right, so the first prompt is write an essay about the causes of the American Civil War. This is what a typical person would actually this is what would actually be doing on a typical thing. Now, the reason why they're typically going to be doing that on their machine is they don't know how to be a real prompt engineer. So what they would write is write an essay about the causes of the American Civil War. Now, this is a person who does not know a lot of domain knowledge. So being able to prompt, you're going to get back a generic, let's call it a boring episode. So if you actually see here, you get a house divided, the root cause of the American Civil War. You see the fundamental divide, the institution of slavery. You see the westward expansion and the struggle of power. So you see all these things. Now, these are typically good things. You'll get generic information and you'd actually love it. Okay. The problem is that this is not specific enough for a person with the domain specific knowledge. Now, imagine if you know AI, but you don't know details about the American Civil War, you may not necessarily be pretty good at knowing how to prompt. But let's say, for example, you're not a domain specific expert and know anything about the Civil War. But what you can do is you can actually know how to be a prompt engineer and ask the right questions. So we're going to make a better question here, or a better prompt. And this better prompt, I'm going to open up another tab in Gemini. I'm going to paste the following. Now, you guys are going to notice the very difference in this prompt. Let me make it a little bigger so you guys can see. I'm going to make the other one so you guys can see. So this one is write an essay about the causes of the American Civil War. So if I copy that prompt, I'm going to drop it in so you guys who's following along at home, write an essay about the causes of the American Civil War. And then if you see here, I have the other prompt, and this prompt is much more detailed. Okay. The prompt says, I'm going to drop it here for you guys. All right. So if you guys see the prompt, it says, first you'll notice in the prompt, it says, act as a postgraduate American history professor. So this is the first part of the prompt that is super important, is you telling the AI to act as a role. So if you're acting as a postgraduate American history professor, that is the role. And then you're saying, write a critical analysis of the American Civil War's origin, specifically focus on the economic friction between the industrial North and the agrarian South, the collapse of the Whig Party, and the implication of the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. Use academic phrasing and cite historical schools of thought. Now, the reason why this is important is because if you have your domain knowledge, and because you have a domain knowledge, you're able to actually ask better questions. So I know we actually have Shauna in the house here. She uses AI a lot, and being able to have her bachelor's in Bible and actually studying the Bible for a long time. Sorry, Shauna, for calling you out here. She's able to actually prompt the AI with much better things than just give me some context or history or the information about the Bible. Because I'm an engineer, I actually am able to actually ask questions about the things I'm actually talking about, maybe failover, what about this connection, maybe a TCP protocol. I know I'm throwing a bunch of technical jargon here for people, but look what it actually did. What it actually did is, by being able to know the domain knowledge, you actually have the ability to see prompt it better to be able to give it much better responses. Now, what it came back with was a generic response, house divided, right? Generic stuff. Over here, it actually broke down the structural divergence and political disintegration in antebellum America, right? No, again, I'm not a history buff, so I don't know all the details of what this means, but I can tell already that this is a much better article. I see a message from Abdul here. So let me just see what Abdul is actually asking. Abdul's saying, does using the pro model matter here? It says the pro model is for complex mathematical and coding tasks. Abdul, that's actually a really great question. So what Abdul's actually asking for is down at the bottom here. So let me show here. So in Gemini, Gemini gives you three options. Now let's explain what these three options are. And this is really, really important for people to actually understand what is going on. Um, All right. So let me tell you what's actually going on here. So the reason is why it's important is because they have three versions. So three versions of the model. So it has fast, thinking, and pro. Now, the reason why you'll always see me use pro is because of the following. Pro actually does what's known as deep thinking. Now, the deep thinking is it actually checks itself. It also does a lot of referential lookup to justify its understanding and classification. If you go with the fast, it actually doesn't do any deep thinking. It just gives you the first thing that it actually thinks about. Now, because these are predictive models, the benefit of actually getting a fast answer is that it comes back really fast. It looks like it's lightning fast, but there's no thinking involved. When you use the pro model, you get thinking, but what happens is it takes a very long time. So if you notice, I've almost always using pro is because I want it to actually hallucinate less, and I also want it to be able to critically understand what I'm asking for and come up with something a little bit more genius. So Abdul, great question. So yes, the pro model does matter. Thinking actually does double checking and actually cross referencing and almost all those things. So it's just a little label that they put to make you guys think that it's actually doing something like advanced math and code. It's not required. All right, Abdul, does that answer your question? Right. Does anybody have any questions before we move on? Okay. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. So what we're gonna do, Abdul mentioned, he's just wondering if thinking model is worth it. I think it is worth it, Abdul. Trust me. We paid the $250 here every single month at Airhead just to make sure that, and it's definitely worth it. I know Claude has other versions of the actual, other versions of their models that they want you to pay for, and the highest tier is usually the best one. So that's usually what the case is. All right. So with that being said, let's actually go to the first part. So let's go to the word of the day. All right. So word of the day. Let's go.
Hey, dude, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, Johnny. We know you're here. All
I'm not
right.
sure if my video is working. That's all.
Yeah, your video is working. It's just the need to switch the scenes. But if you can actually do that while I'm actually reading the word of the day, you'll be able to we'll be able to see you in no time. All right, so we're kicking off. Let's see. The word of the day is. I know it's on the screen. All right. So the word of the day today is domain expertise. It simply means having deep specialized knowledge in a specific field or subject. So what that means is that if you have domain expertise, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, you know exactly what those specific terminologies and those specific knowledge in that field because you've either studied it or you've either spent a lot of time with that expertise. So when you use a highly specific expert level vocabulary, you force the large language model into what's known as a narrower, higher quality latent space. You aren't giving it instructions, you are giving it an intellectual framework. And this is something I want us to maybe make sure we understand. So we talk about latent space here at Earhead quite a bit, and let's explain what latent space really means. So latent space is the following. It's a mathematical model where words fit on a multi-dimensional graph. Now, I know that's a lot of a lot of details, so you guys actually may not necessarily, but let me just break down what that means. Let's say, for example, you have a graph, and I know I could have brought up a visual, but I'm just doing this on the fly. If you have a graph and I were to say plot a point of 3 comma 2. Now, for people who don't remember their math, and like, why are you bringing up math, is that if XY coordinate actually tells you where things are horizontally and vertically on a point. With that being said, on a point, you can actually find where that point is. Now, how does this relate to words? I like to give this example of how does a king relate to a queen, and how does a queen relate to a prince, or how a king or a queen relates to a princess. Now, it's a mathematical model, and I know you probably are saying, how can you apply math to words? A king and a queen is associated mathematically because you can do math operations. The first math operation that you'll do on a king to get to a queen is you'll take a king and you'll minus male and you'll add female. And believe it or not, that mathematical equation of minusing male from a king and added female turns it into a queen. And you can put that on a graph, a multi-dimensional graph, to be able to store that somewhere. Now you're probably saying, why would I ever need to care about math, about a king relating to a queen? It's because when you use specific words, the math is actually looking at associations to try to predict how those things are associated, which is why the AI seems rather magical, that you can mention one thing and it actually can figure out the path to another thing. So if I was to say, who is the prince, who was the king at the time while there was prince, of XYZ in a country? And what will happen is those words, king and prince and those type of things, will be associated, and you can pinpoint this graph matches to this location of this person or this thing, and you can mathematically associate all those things. So the reason why domain expertise is important is because the way how the system works underneath is actually a mathematical model, and understanding that if you use specific words and use specific phrases, it will work really, 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 really much better. All right. So any questions so far on that? Yeah, Johnny, I know I can actually hear you if you actually unmute.
I can hear you.
Awesome.
The problem with the video, it says that I'm turned off by the host.
Yeah, I turned you off because you were on the wrong scene. So if you just swap the scenes, we'll bring you back in. No big deal.
I have to go swap the scene?
Yes, go swap the scenes and then I'll just bring you back in.
Okay.
All right. So does anybody have any questions so far on the word of the day, domain expertise, being able to have deep specialized knowledge in a specific field or subject? All right, let's actually move on to the prompt. So let's do a deep dive on the actual prompt. So again, we're using Gemini here, and I know Abdul likes us to. Abdul, would you like me to show you what the non-pro version would look like, the fast version, so you'd actually see if it makes a difference? I think I'm going to do that for Abdul. So I'm going to switch to fast. I'm going to paste the thing here. Now, what the thing is, this has context, so it's not fair. Let me go ahead and do a new chat. And we're going to use fast. I'm going to just paste this here. So you'll notice data comes back almost instantaneously, right? It starts to type in, and it brought in the centrality of slavery, economic divergence, and see, this is what our previous one did. I actually have it in my history. But anyway, so the point is, it actually did come back fast. But again, it's not going to be as good with all the reference points, everything checked. It just gave the first thing that actually came back without any double checking. All right. So what we're going to do is think of the prompt like a steering wheel, right? We are going to add a persona to it. So when you say, let's type it, for example, act as a skeptical economic historian. So if we actually look at our prompt here, we started out with a role. This role itself is the role. And by actually being able to say, hey, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a surgeon, or I want to be you're telling the AI to not only AI to specifically look at those particular people, or those particular books, or those particular videos, or those particular things as that person. So it's by telling it to actually become a role, you're actually already narrowing it to a specific location in its working memory, right? I see Abdul's actually asking a question. Is the thinking model better than fast, or should yeah, so quality goes higher with pro, Abdul. So Abdul's asking, is the thinking model any better than fast, or should you just rely? So always go with pro. You're going to run out of tokens if you're actually not paying the highest tier, but pro will always give you the most accurate, most rich answers ever. The fast versions will just give you the first thing. It will actually have a little bit more hallucinations than normal. Thanks, Abdul, for that question. All right, so if you actually see here, we actually have the persona here act as a postgraduate American history professor. This is a super important thing to know, because you are acting as the person in that field. So if you're a doctor, you can say, I want, and again, I'm not in a medical field, so this may not necessarily make sense to a doctor watching, but they may say, act as an orthopedic surgeon, because they're trying to solve some either bone disease or some bone issue, right? So that's the first thing that having domain expertise puts you in the role of the thing that you're trying to solve. Now, if you notice, because I actually say I did postgraduate American history professor, it gave me this answer, right? So it actually answered as this way. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to say, you know what? I'm going to change it to act as a skeptical economic historian. Okay, so I'm going to just change the prompt here. And by just changing the role to a skeptical economic historian, the result that I actually get because of the role is going to be very different. And the reason why it's going to be very different is because you're actually telling the AI to start with a assumption, or start with a thing, with a presupposition. You're telling it to actually go somewhere. So what it's actually doing now, it's actually running through its inference, and the AI is thinking and generating the text at the bottom, right? So if you actually notice, the article that came back, only thing I did was just change one line. Instead of saying act as a history professor, act as a postgraduate history professor, my query is exactly the same. It says write a critical analysis of the American Civil War. By changing it to a different persona, the actual article that came back is a much different and much better article. So you guys may be amazed by saying, hey, you know what? I ask generic questions to the AI all the time. I don't need to know how to be an orthopedic surgeon, or I don't need to be a, XYZ. So because of that, there's no need to ever try to learn that thing. So the point we're trying to make here at Airhead is that domain knowledge is not dead, because you cannot be a really great prompt engineer without that information, right? So, the example I probably want to give is that if you don't provide the basic human knowledge to the AI is just going to give you anything that it thinks it is. And because you don't have that expertise, you're not going to be able to fact check that AI for hallucinations, and the AI will hallucinate. What do you think about that, AI, Johnny?
I think it's good. I'm still working on the video, as you can see.
No
Not
worries.
quite
No
sure
worries.
if it's an eCam issue. I loaded up my video. I looked at it in the thing. It looks fine on my end.
Yep, just need to change the scene. That's it, and turn on the video, and then you'll be fine.
Change the scene in eCam or change the scene in Zoom?
Ecamm, always Ecamm. And then once you do that, once it's working, then just turn your video on in Zoom, and then you'll be popping right in.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, John, you want to actually set us up for the level 2, or you want to still work on that?
I'm all good, brother. Are you talking about the knowledge map?
No, the segment 6. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's look at why this works technically. When you type a generic word, the model searches a massive generalized database. Every word you type is converted into tokens, which are basically chunks of text the computer can understand. When you use highly specific college terminology, you tap into specific embeddings. This means the AI mathematically links your niche words to high-level academic texts it was trained on. And we are also avoiding hallucinations, which is when AI confidently lies. Because of your highly detailed context window, it acts like a fence, keeping the AI from wandering into fiction. That's kind of cool. And lastly, think of it as a giant library. A generic prompt tells the librarian, find me a book on history. A college-level prompt hands the librarian the exact Dewey Decimal coordinates to find the exact book that you want.
Exactly. So yes, so let me just explain a little bit more on that. What is actually happening? Because it's a really, really important concept. No, just because it's an in immersive class, we don't expect you guys to understand every single details. But by understanding the fundamental, picking up a word here and there, like our example of dropping in a foreign country that we actually do here every single time in our intro, is that don't try to think that you're going to get everything all at once. There's a lot of technical terminologies here that we want to make sure that you guys at least understand. And with time, you will get it. So I promise you guys, stick with us and you will get it. So check this out. So every time you actually type something into AI, no, it doesn't have to be typing. You could speak it. You could actually show it a camera. You could show it a camera. I'm going to deny that, Johnny. Yeah. All right. And so I hear you. You might have an echo on that, and then I'll bring you. Almost
Sorry,
right. That's okay. All right. So with that being said, let me explain what it is. So every time you type into a language model, a large language model, you're actually telling it to do something, and it's going to take that and break it down into tokens. Now, tokens are the AI equivalent of a syllable. So you and I speak in English. Our words itself are made up of many different syllables. Sometimes there's one syllable word. So the point is you have small number of syllables that make up different things. So it breaks it down into tokens. Once it breaks it up into tokens, it goes into something called embeddings. Now, this is the mathematical links that I was talking about earlier, where your words are actually stored in some kind of math model. So by using the right domain knowledge, you're able to link the correct things with the AI correctly, which is why you're able to get better results if you know your domain knowledge, right? And the reason why hallucinations reduce is because you're actually telling it to go down the right path. The farther you're away from the path of the question you're asking, with domain knowledge not being a factor, it's more likely to hallucinate because it doesn't have the data on that specific path. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense for you guys. All right, yeah, Johnny, you want to set up the under the hood, the deeper dive, the segment 7?
Yep. Ready for the deep dive, everybody? Grab your hard hats. This is where AI Junior nerds out for those of you that like the high-tech stuff. If you don't follow along here, don't worry about it. Junior, technically, what is happening inside the neural network when a student uses advanced domain vocabulary versus regular vocabulary, basic vocabulary.
All right, so this is going to be a little bit more technical. So if you guys were lost in the first one, you guys just take a little break for 2 or 3 minutes. But this is really important for all my technical folks. I see you guys on the call. So the first thing that's really important is just remember what the T means in GPT, right? It's a transformer model or transformer architecture. So it comes all down to what's known as the attention mechanism. So the attention mechanism is what the AI chooses to focus on. So if you talk about, say, for example, a king, it says, hey, I know the word king can match to a ruler of a place. It can match to a piece on a chessboard. It can match with, a fast food joint for eating, burgers. The point is the word king can map to many different mathematical points. So because it maps to multiple points, this multi-dimensional vector space where it's actually storing the data, it needs to traverse and figure out what you're talking about, right? So the high-level vocabulary words do not have this strong mapping to many different points, right? So the model puts different weights attached to the specific words versus the common words. So if you were to just say the word and, that word and is rather boring. It doesn't mean much. It's used as a conjunction to many things. But if you were to use the word, say, for example, because of this specific thing, or, it would actually try to tie that word, which is why the more specific you are, it's better. So when you input a basic prompt, the self-attention mechanism predicts the next most likely statistically average word. So you actually get mediocrity, right? No, when you use a specific jargon, you drastically alter the probability of that distribution. The algorithm mathematically forced to bypass the common layers of the neural network and retrieve data from the more specialized, deep trained layers. So you're essentially performing what's known as a zero-shot prompting with extreme precision by bypassing the need for external RAG, that's retrieval augmented generation, because you are activating the deepest knowledge nodes already in the system. So that's roughly what's going on under the hood when you actually use domain specific words versus generic words. So by using your specific words, you actually get way, 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 way better responses. And if you're not sure, why don't you have two tabs open and you guys ask one thing specific and one thing generic, and you're just going to see the much, much, much difference that you actually get in response. All right, yeah, Johnny, how are we doing?
This is the voice of AI Johnny.
I love it.
Would you like to know the three things that you can take away for your everyday life?
Of course.
Drafting cover letters. You don't just use a generic letter, you use a niche industry terminology you learned in your major to prove that you belong in that field. So this technology allows you to draft better, more specified cover letters that'll get your letter and resume, if that's what's going with it, looked at because you have a higher level of expertise. Debate preparation. Use your class notes to prompt AI to act as a hostile opponent. I love this one. Attacking the specific theories that you just learned. So this is, what do they call that? Who's the philosopher?
I was gonna say these are GAN networks, but I was gonna say something else. But I thought you were gonna go in that direction.
Where you learn because the professor keeps asking you questions instead of telling you answers. He asks you questions. It's called scholastic.
The stochastic line of questioning. Yep.
Yep. And then finally, building custom GPTs. You can use your college syllabus to write the system prompt for a custom agent, grounding it in pure, verified academic rigor. So custom GPTs, and I'm sure we're going to have an entire course on that one day.
Yep. So one thing I want to elaborate on, just so people understand. So when AI Johnny actually he talked about the debate prep, and he talked about generate a hostile opponent. So I want to actually talk a little bit about what's known as a GAN network, because I did mention it. And a GAN network is hey Devon, thanks for joining. Generative adversarial network. Now, this is actually rather cool. So if you guys don't learn anything from today's class, I want you guys to take this away. If you actually have and Abdul, this goes back to your question, and the reason why it goes back to your question is because the thinking is actually not thinking. It's actually doing something in the model behind the scenes. Now, this is what it's doing. It actually has two people inside the AI when you're asking a question. Those two people is the person who comes up with the idea and the critic. Those two people are actually proposing an idea, and the second one is critiquing for every single flaw. So if you were to say, draw me a picture of a cat, that will be the objective of the person who does the work. And the critic would be an art critic that says, does this look like a cat or not? So what will happen is in a GAN network, what will happen is the critic, when you type your prompt that says, draw me a picture of a cat, the person or the first AI would actually draw the picture of the cat with just a few blotches and says, this is a cat. I draw a circle face. I draw a triangle for the ears. I draw a little fluffy thing as a tail. And that's how it would be. Then the opponent or the critic would say, that doesn't look like a cat. That looks like some circles with some geometry shapes. So then what will happen is it would go back to the creative, and they would say, you know what, you're right. Let me go ahead and make the tail a little bit fuzzy. Let me put a little bit of whiskers on the cat, and it will give it back to the critic. Then the critic would say, that looks better, but guess what? That is not a cat yet. It doesn't look real enough. then the it would go back to the first AI, and the first AI would actually keep improving. Now, what I just said was just only 3 iterations. Now you can imagine if we were to have a 2-hour show or a 5-hour show, we would actually get a cat that looks beautifully, perfectly realistic. This is what's happening inside the AI, especially when you're actually going back and forth millions and millions of times. So it's actually making sure that your thing looks really, really, really good, because it's critiquing it constantly. So that's one thing I just wanted you guys to actually understand, that what that's happening inside the AI when it's thinking, and it's when it's doing things like diffusion models and those type of things. So I just wanted to make sure you guys at least hear that. All right, so on the technical side of things, so there are 3 technical applications: is data structuring. So you can use your domain knowledge to force the AI to format messy data into strict industry standard, say for example, JSON structures. So imagine if you didn't have any domain knowledge, and somebody gave you a bunch of paperwork, and they say, these are the paperwork. Let's say, for example, it's paperwork from a doctor's office. If you have paperwork from a doctor's office and you say, I want you to file these way in an organized fashion, you're going to be like, I have no idea how to organize it. What is the way you want me to organize it? But by having a domain expertise, you can say, you know what? I know exactly how to format these, sort these. I can put them in terms of, patients' symptoms, or when did they come in, and whatever it is, you can actually use that domain knowledge. The next one is you can use this as domain code, debugging code. You don't just say fix this code. You can use specific computer science concepts from your classes and guide the LLM to say, hey, this is actually a syntax error, or this connection is probably an issue because of a timeout. You can use very specific things and help the AI to understand. The last one is you can, like, yeah, Johnny mentioned, you can build custom GPTs. So you can use your college syllabus to write a system prompt for a custom agent, grounding it in pure, verified academic rigor. All right, yeah, Johnny, before we actually get to questions, does anybody on the Zoom chat have any questions before we go to the live? So hopefully, if anybody asks you a question of saying, hey, do I need to go to college? You actually have to answer, yes, you have to go to college, because domain knowledge is really important to becoming a better prompt engineer. So I want us to take away from this class that domain knowledge is not dead. You need to know the domain knowledge to be able to become a better prompt engineer. All right. Does anybody have any questions? I see reactions in the Zoom chat. Thanks, Shauna. Thanks everybody for that. All right. Anybody have any questions? All right. Yeah, Johnny, do we have any questions?
Yeah, I've got some questions here. In fact, the first question falls just a little bit outside the ethical guardrails. It's from Dorm Room Hacker. He says, I'm a freshman. Can I just ask the AI to pretend to be an expert so I don't have to study? What do you think about that?
Typical college kids. Yeah, so I remember the days when I went to go study, and I went to go, I want somebody else to do my homework in, biology class, because I did not like biology at all. But if you ask somebody else, you paid a nerd to go do your biology homework, or you pay, you ask a friend to do your homework, what happened is they can do the work. You won't gain any knowledge, and you get the credit for it. But what's going to happen is it's going to lack a lot of things, right? So you're going to lack your specific nuances and your style. So the teacher may even realize that, hey, you don't speak like this. So that's the first thing that's going to happen. So if you use AI to generate your work and their expertise, you're not going to put your spin on it. So people will be able to see through all that. The next thing is, if you don't know the material, you don't know if the AI is actually hallucinating. So, what happens is when you say something to the AI and it actually hallucinates, you have no idea if it's true or not. So sometimes it's good to have domain expertise and not just let the AI do the work for you. All right, AI Johnny, any other questions?
Yeah, we've got a question about the context window from a professor. How does the context window limit this kind of expert prompting?
All right. So one thing I want us to make sure we understand is that the context window is the amount of stuff that you can actually put into the prompt. So if I actually go back to my screen here, if you notice, I was able to type in this prompt here. Now, this prompt itself is very, 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 very large. When we just came out with GPTs, we could only put, 32,000, tokens in there. Sometimes it was even 4,000 tokens. So it was actually really, really tiny. Now, because we're using Gemini, Gemini allows up to 1 million tokens. Now, some of the other GPTs, they have much lower numbers. I think ChatGPT only has 250,000 tokens. And I think, depending on Claude or whichever one you use, but depending on which one you have, it has a fixed context window or context size, which means how much stuff you can put in there. Now, believe it or not, 100,000 tokens is a lot of tokens. So your initial question will almost always fit in the initial context. The problem occurs when you actually start to keep that conversation going multiple times, because believe it or not, the entire conversation is actually sent back to the large language model every time you chat. So if you were to say, on this example, I have a lot of tokens. If I were just to say the word thank you, right? This would have been only just say, for example, about 4 tokens. But by saying thank you just to the AI, I'm pressing enter. I've just sent over my 4 tokens, plus let's pretend my whole entire conversation was 20,000 tokens. You've just burned through 20,004 tokens. And if you're on a paid tier, you're going to hit that limit much, much faster because you just wasted 20,000 tokens for absolutely no reason. So what I want us to remember is context size and context window is important. And every time you have a conversation, it's sending the entire conversation back to AI. So you won't blow through your initial numbers right away, but you will eventually blow through it if you keep the conversation going. So be thoughtful in what you're saying. And if you're on a free tier, try not to go back and forth with not well thought out questions or comments. All right, yeah, Johnny. We don't actually have time.
Do we have time for one more?
Go ahead. I don't want to leave anybody else. Go ahead.
Will the future AI models even need us to be domain experts, or will they just know what we want?
So on our Friday shows, we actually have artificial general intelligence talk. We have artificial super intelligence talk. We talk about a lot of futuristic stuff on our Friday show. So I do believe that a person who's able to articulate their questions, thoughts, comments better will actually make a better interaction with whatever super intelligence or whatever artificial general intelligence will exist. So I do think that those specific nuances will extract higher value. So if we're partnering with the AI, if you have a 3rd grade level education and if you have a college level education, you're interacting, chances are you're going to have much better time interacting with the AI with a much higher degree of conversations. All right, yeah, Johnny. Hopefully there's no more, right?
The queue is empty unless anybody else wants to. Well, we only have 3 minutes to go. You want to get into the news, brother?
Yep, let's get into the news.
Major university adopts AI transparent policies. Several Ivy League schools have shifted away from banning AI, instead requiring students to submit their prompt histories alongside their essays to show their workflow. That's on the honesty principle, I'm guessing.
Yep.
The honor system.
Yep. Go ahead, Adrian.
New open source model rivals proprietary tech. The new open source model was released this week that allows developers to run high-level inference locally on standard laptops, democratizing access to powerful coding assistance.
Yeah, so guys, I want to just explain this headline. This one is huge. So what is happening is that the models, or these large language models, they require lots of computing resources and lots of power to actually run. Now, what happens is, ChatGPT, it takes $70 million for them to run their servers every single day, right? So every day it's $70 million and $70 million tomorrow. And all that is actually just in compute resources. Now, keep in mind that having these really, really amazing models to run on our phones or run on our laptops are really hard problems. So there are new models that are coming out that are actually quantized that can actually be run on your local machine in a relatively small amount of space with a little bit of memory, and it's actually showing really, really promising. So these are actually pretty good now. You know, we have 70 billion parameter models. We can get into those in our Airhead after school or Airhead office hours. We actually have it today at between 3 and 5 p.m. So if you want to talk more about some technical stuff, definitely sign up for a pro plan and join us in the discussion between 3 and 5 today. All right, yeah, Johnny, you can read the last headline.
Every single day we have, like, what was it the other day about talking to whales? Today, researchers used a specialized neural network to map historical climate data, finding patterns that human teams missed for decades, proving that AI paired with humans, domain experts, is the future of science.
Exactly. And I'll throw in one more bit of news that is actually amazing. There is a math Olympiad, or really, really hard problem that is, they do every single year. And the Gemini 3.1 model actually just solves 6 of them. And, they're really, really hard models, and they're actually coming up with solutions that never existed before. So, things are happening really blazing fast, and it's actually amazing what's actually happening in the time period we're actually living in now. So I can't imagine the diseases that we're going to be curing and the neurological things that we're going to be curing. So it's going to be an exciting time what we're living in now. All right, AI Johnny, let's wrap up.
Another incredible class. Immediately after this stream, I'm going to take my old college notes on broadcast journalism and use them to completely rewrite the system prompt that runs my daily calendar. The knowledge that you can earn in the real world is the ultimate programming language. Tomorrow is Thursday, which means we're diving into our Hidden AI Gems again series, and we will be covering Napkin AI instant infographics and show you how you can turn boring text into sleek diagrams automatically. You do not want to miss that.
Exactly. And thank you guys for all tuning in. Remember, these classes are completely free and live, and you can ask any questions you want right here on Zoom. And if you haven't already, RSVP for a free account on airheadinstitute.ai. Also, today is Wednesday. Don't forget, like I mentioned, we have Airhead After School and AI Office Hours today from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern for pro members. So catch you guys tomorrow. Later.
That wraps up today's AI Power Up. If you joined late or you're new here, welcome to Airhead Institute. This is your daily destination for mastering artificial intelligence. We designed this lineup for everyone, whether you're a technical pro looking to upskill or you just want to chill and learn something new on your lunch break, we've got you covered. Our classes evolve every single month, so you're always on the cutting edge. And the best part? It's totally free to join. Once you're in, you can get live tips on your AI projects in our AI office hours and even enroll your kids in our Airhead After School program. Scan the QR code to join the community right now and make sure to like and subscribe at Airhead Institute on all socials. Guided by your hosts AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're here to help you win. Remember, AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind. We'll see you next class. Bring a friend.